Hello, everybody, and welcome to the match preview show. I'm Richie, and I'll be your host tonight. And I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for spending this beautiful and bright Saturday night with us on the eve of a huge game against Aston Villa at the Fortress of Anfield tomorrow. Tonight, we will be looking ahead to the match tomorrow against Emery's Villains, as well as a quick recap of the transfer window. And tonight, I need all of your help, viewers, and all of your help as well, guests, because we are going to be going head to head to test Kev, Colin and Neil's knowledge of all things Liverpool and Aston Villa. It's going to be a wild ride on the Saturday Night Club, and I'm delighted to welcome my podcast host and friend, Kev Williams. Kev TV, how are you going?
I was waiting for it. It didn't take long.
Got it in early.
I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. It's a nice sunny evening here in Liverpool and looking forward for tomorrow's game.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin, my man from across the pond, you've been busy with your coursework today. How are you?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Very excited for our game, and frankly, happy that the transfer window is now shut here.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a moment. And finally, Neil, the man who managed to get himself lost at Anfield for the first 45 minutes and miss 4 goals in a 6-0 drill-in against Luton. Another Saturday night you and I get to spend together. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. So, you're showing my age there a bit, Richie. Because I don't think we've beaten Luton 6-0 too many times. So, and Rush scored 5 that day. So,
and Dalglish got 1, so we are going back a little bit.
He did. Yes.
Yeah. Out of interest, how did you manage to get lost? Was it inside Anfield, outside Anfield?
It was outside Anfield. So I was travelling with family from Widnes, and we went in 2 separate cars, and I went with the youngsters, and I was only 8 or 9, and they were like, "I'll come. We'll go to the ground this way," and they got us lost. So we got in at half time. It was 4-0. Rush had scored 3 already, and Kenny had scored, and then we got 2 more in the second half. So I did see 2 goals.
Well, at least you saw 2. Jen, massive hello to you. Jay, massive hello to you. Neil and Ian, hello as well. Please do make sure that we are active in the chat tonight. As I said, I have got 3 rounds of a little bit of general knowledge / Liverpool, Aston Villa. I'd like for all of us to get involved in. However, if I do say don't put anything in the chat, it's because I don't want you to help Kev, Colin and Neil out. So let's see how it goes first. But please do put the comments in the chat and we will pull them up as and when. So let's get stuck in straight away then to the match preview and the team news. In what will be Jurgen Klopp's 300th Premier League game as Liverpool manager, the 17th to reach such an amazing feat. Curtis Jones is back in training after an ankle injury, but Ibrahima Konate and Thiago Alcantara are not yet fit. There is at least one change that will obviously have to be made, with Virgil van Dijk suspended. Since the Dutchman's arrival in 2018, Liverpool have won just 52% of all their Premier League games without him. That's 24 games won out of a possible 46. Compare that to the 71% when he has been involved. How big of a miss, Kev? Oh, by the way, if you want to know the statistics, Liverpool have won 117 out of 164 with him. So there's a massive swing there without Virgil van Dijk. How much of a difference does Virgil van Dijk make, Kev, to this Liverpool team?
It's huge. It's massive at the minute, especially with the fact that we've been on this channel asking for another centre-back, ideally a left centre-back, and it's for situations like we've got now, suspensions and injuries. And unfortunately, the 2 that will be coming in tomorrow is going to cause us a bit of... it's going to put me... I'll need St. John's ambulance next to me tomorrow at the match, because I am going to be... I'll be on the edge of my seat, because you've got a very good Aston Villa team and a Watkins that's in form, who is going to have potentially a field day tomorrow. It's going to be a tough game for us tomorrow, and you need your best players. And unfortunately, we've lost one. He is huge for us, and as the stats show, it shows how difficult it is when he isn't in the side. The only good thing for us tomorrow is that it's at Anfield and not at Villa Park. So for me, that gives us a bit of momentum. At least we start the game with 11 men. So It'd be a good thing for Endo to see one more person on that pitch.
I know, he must think that it's just a Liverpool way to always play with 10. If Liverpool, by the way, if there is a red card, that'll be the third consecutive red card. That will be something that has not happened since 1999 for Liverpool. So fingers crossed that will not happen. Jen, a massive, massive thank you for your donation, and absolutely where Kev merch is. It is going, and you'll be the first to receive some Kev TV merch. I can absolutely assure you of that. Colin, as I mentioned before, 71% win rate when Virgil van Dijk has been in the Liverpool side. That's absolutely huge. I mean, how much of an impact, not has he made in the past, because that speaks for itself, but what about this season? What about this season's Virgil van Dijk? Aside from the Isak tackle, how have you found his performances to be over the past 3 games?
Yeah, fairly monumentous. Like, he's been an absolute colossus in the air, especially. His like aerial win rate has been fantastic, and I think just that kind of, they talk about him having a kind of presence that you can't just like replicate, and like not everybody has, and I think that is like, it's unable to be replaced even if we were to get another center back. I think that kind of intangible thing that he has is just not able to be replicated all the time, and it does make such a huge difference. And I wonder if we don't change the kind of tactical approach to playing a team like this because of how good he's been and how much he would be missed.
Yeah, and you know, it's his leadership qualities as well that makes a massive, massive difference to that back line as well as the whole team. It's that back line. Neil, despite Liverpool being weakened in defence, the Opta supercomputer expects them to make it 3 wins on the spin on Sunday, giving the host a 60% chance of victory. Villa's chances of winning are rated at just 16%, and the likelihood of a draw standing at 23%. Do you think that's likely that Liverpool come away with all 3 points? And do you feel the same as me that 16% is actually quite low for Aston Villa?
Yeah, I think I think as soon as Unai Emery took over, they improved massively as a team, and I think he's made some good signings as well. I think Moussa Diaby is an excellent signing, so they are a dangerous team. And as Kev mentioned, the battle with Watkins is going to be key because he's caused us problems before, and he can cause defences real issues. So I'm confident that we win the game, but I don't expect it to be a particularly comfortable afternoon. A draw wouldn't surprise me if I'm honest. So what did you say? 16% chance for Aston Villa to win the game.
So the Opta supercomputer said, yeah, which we obviously take with a pinch of salt, but 16%. Yeah,
well, home advantage, I would say, you know, that will give Liverpool the edge. So, yeah, I think 16% is reasonable, despite the fact that they do carry that threat.
Yeah, there are over 60 people in the chat right now. So please do make sure that you leave a like and a subscribe and a comment too. We do like to hear all of your comments, so long as they're nice, obviously. So please make sure that you do that. It does go a long way for the channel. Since Klopp took over then in 2015, Liverpool have recorded the most wins after conceding first and gained the most points from losing positions in the Premier League. They've came from behind to win 35 times and amassed an amazing 135 points when they've come back from losing positions. Colin, do you expect Liverpool to go behind first at Anfield? Is it just something that we have to accept, that they start slow, that they're vulnerable at the back? Or do you think that perhaps we can try to get out of this terrible habit?
Habits are really hard to break. That's why they are such. I would really love to. I would really love to, like, and honestly, I would not mind if we like shut shop for the first 15 to 20 and really bared down defensively and made sure that was not the case. Because if we do, I think that it can really, it's going to be a huge uphill battle. They're a really, really well coached and managed team. They have quality probably where it can hurt us the most. I think we can get at them, but I mean, conceding the first goal would, you know, that's really been such a massive issue for us over the past, I don't know, 18 months. I would love us to take a more pragmatic approach to making sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like we've not kept a clean sheet in absolutely years as well. Kev, do you think it's ability? Do you think it's concentration? What do you think it is that has happened to Liverpool in the opening 10, 15, 20 minutes that just makes them so open and seemingly exposed at the back? I mean, let's be honest, the last home game against Bournemouth should have easily scored 2 within the first 10 minutes.
It's a bit of apprehension. It's a bit of, I've got more time than I usually do have. There's been individual errors that I've combinated in us starting slow. That then gets hesitation in the ground. That then brings on the jitters. And before you know, we're 1 or 2-0 down. Do you know what I mean? We were fortunate against Bournemouth that one of them was offside. But this has been an issue not just this season. It was also last season as well, where we've seen it. You know, the last game of the season against Villa, we didn't start well. And it took for Bobby to come on for him to win the game, well, to equalise for us. We found it very hard at least to settle down early. We need about a good 10-20 minutes. So I agree with what Colin said. You know, I'd like us to have the energy, but also, you know, shut up shop for a couple of minutes. Let's play the percentages and, you know, get ourselves on the front foot. There will be options for us tomorrow. There will be chances for us tomorrow, but we need to stop them coming in the other way because, you know, I know Watkins has only scored 1 against us or 2 maybe, but he's on fire at the minute, and you can't give this team any kind of hopes. They played midweek against Hibs. They've come out of them, those 2 games with an 8-0 win. So the energy's there. They've played 1 more game than us. So the expectancy for me is that there may be a bit of tiredness in that team, hopefully, and we can exploit it. But it's a combination of things for me, if I'm being honest, Richie, because it's not just one individual thing. It's a combination of factors, which is why we are conceding so early, and then it then kind of gives us the impetus to try and to get ourselves back in. But it would be nice tomorrow to at least to win by 0. Dare I say?
I know. Honestly, clean sheets. Like we know that Linda loves a clean sheet as well. So let's do it for Linda, boys. Neil, oh boy, not him. Makes a really good point. Get rid of the high line. We defend better, especially since we don't have Virgil van Dijk and Ibu Konate. Is that something that you feel that perhaps just as a one-off, or until we get both of them back, that's something that we should do, or do Liverpool continue to press and play the way they play?
I'd be very surprised if they did change, because I think we've been with this high line for a long time now. So I get the point about playing a little bit deeper to stop the balls in behind. But I think knowing the manager and his coaching team, I think they'll put the emphasis on getting the pressing right high up the pitch to stop the balls being knocked in behind. So I think they're quite stubborn on the high line front. So I don't think there'll be a significant change. Gomez is fairly pacey. Matip, maybe not so much. Probably the adjustment I would make is to have Trent a bit more playing in his old right back role rather than the inverted right back position, so that the ball doesn't get put in behind him and cause Matip problems on the right hand side of that defence. So I don't think they'll change the tactics. I think they'll just put more emphasis on the importance of pressing high up the pitch and stopping those long balls over the top. I don't disagree. It has the potential to cause us problems, but I just think they're too stubborn to change.
And that's, you know, it's always been an issue, isn't it, with the way that Klopp sets himself up and the team up as well. So we'll see. A little bit of team news then for Aston Villa. Villa gave Galatasaray loanee Nicolo Zaniolo his first start from the bench at Turf Moor, and he could feature again at Anfield. Tyrone Mings and Emiliano Buendia are long-term absences. FIFA World Cup winner Emiliano Martinez should return between the sticks after missing the Burnley win with a minor injury. Alex Moreno, Bertrand Traore and Jacob Ramsey remain sidelined. Right, round 1. And I do need everyone in the chat here. There are nearly 96. There are 96, nearly 100 of you in the chat. Please do make sure that you give us a like and a subscribe. 2, I'm going to ask everybody in the chat to hold what it is that they're typing, because we are going to go to a double agent round. There are 21 players who have played for both Liverpool and Aston Villa. Now, you guys are on your computers. You can load up a Word document. You can scribble on a pen and paper. I'm going to give you 45 seconds to name as many as the 21 as you can. Don't shout out. Don't put anything into the chat as well, guys, but you can give us the number that you've got, and I will read out all 21, and we can see who the winner is. There are 5 points up for grabs, and there will be a winner tonight. I can absolutely guarantee it. So please make sure that everyone in the chat, that you mute your chats, because we don't want Kev, Neil, and Colin all cheating and getting too many. We want to see who wins. So I am going to get my clock on my app. I'm going to start a stopwatch for 45 seconds. You three, are you ready?
Ready.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 21 players who have played for both Liverpool and Aston Villa. How many can you name in 45 seconds? Everybody watching, please do play along as well. Just don't give the names, because it will help the Three Musketeers out. Your time starts now.
Dean Saunders.
Stan
You've got to write them down. Whoa, you got to say, you got to think how many. How many can you name?
Oh my God.
How many can you name?
God.
How many can you name? And I did 45 seconds, so no one can Google it that quick either. So how many can you name? You got 25 seconds left. There's 21. And then I just need the number. Everybody who's listening, let's go to a minute, because they're struggling a lot here. We'll go to a minute, but no one else put anything else in the chat. I can hear everyone breathing heavily because they're concentrating really hard. And your time is up, guys. Right, we're going to go around. Just give us your number. Okay, everyone else in the chat, please do write your number as well. Kev, what's your number?
Sadly 6.
6, okay, a respectable 6. Colin?
I only 3.
3, okay. And Neil?
I think I've got 7.
You think you got 7? Right, this is what we're going to do then. We are going to go to Neil, and if he has 7 correct, then Neil is the winner for this round. There are other rounds there too. Everybody else as well. Jen, I'm so sorry that we made Kev work. Everybody else, do put your numbers in as well. So go for it, Neil. 7.
Felipe Coutinho.
Correct.
Dean Saunders.
Correct. Yep.
Stan Collymore.
Stan Collymore.
Brad Friedel.
Correct.
Ray Houghton.
Well, he's not on the list.
Kev was nodding. I'm sure Houghton played for Villa.
Yes.
I'll Google it. He's okay. I'll have to Google it. He's not on the list. Maybe these are just Premier League ones. We'll have a look.
Yeah.
Keep going.
James Milner.
Yeah.
Oh, shout.
And Christian Benteke.
Christian Benteke. Very good. Well done.
Steve
Pending the Ray
Staunton's
Houghton. Good. So Kev, give us your 6 then.
My 6, Dean Saunders, Steve Staunton, Ray Houghton, Benteke, Collymore, and Coutinho.
Good. And Neil, your 3.
I had
sorry, Colin, your 3.
I had Coutinho, Ings, and Benteke.
Nice. Okay, very good. Well done. Ray Houghton does count. So Neil, you are the winner. For the first round, let me go through all the 21. Stephen Warnock, Steve Staunton, Ali Sissoko, remember him, Stan Collymore, Danny Ings, Robbie Keane, the Talisman and the Journeyman, Emil Heskey, Peter Crouch, Milan Barosh, Christian Benteke, Dean Saunders, Pepe Reina, David James, Scott Carson, Brad Friedel. It's like a Villa, like a graveyard for goalkeepers. Stuart Downing, Patrick Berger, Joe Cole, James Milner, Philippe Coutinho, and one of my personal favourites, Oyvind Leonhardsson, the original number 8 for me growing up.
He wasn't a good player though. Leonhardsson, was he? That was he was someone who I always thought he's gonna be brilliant. Just look at him, look at the curtains on him, look at the way he dresses, and yeah, a little bit of a flop.
let us know, everybody else, how many of those 21/22, because Ray Houghton was in there. I think it was, maybe I was just looking at the Premier League list, but how many did you get as well? Because there are now over 110 of you, which is phenomenal. So please do make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. Right, before we go on to round 2 then, let's go into some match facts and statistics. Liverpool are unbeaten in their last 14 Premier League games, a run which stretches back to their 4-1 loss at Manchester City on the 1st of April. Klopp's team have recorded 9 wins and 5 draws since then. Kev, it doesn't seem like that, does it? Or does it?
It doesn't. But we are in a good, richer form at the minute. And especially with the way this season started, with going down to 10 men twice, and they've found this never give up attitude that's kind of like, bringing it back to the original Jurgen Klopp team. So there's fight in this team, and it's good to see. It's hard. It's mad when you start making stats like that, and especially with the way the season started as well, that you don't really think about the games from last season. You're only looking negatively from the start of this season. But we are in a good, richer form, albeit, you wouldn't think it, but it's our own confidence has got to be high, and it bodes well for the season if we can go on these long runs. And that's why I think there's only us and City that can do these long runs. Arsenal have got this thing now where, and I kind of agree with what Carragher said, is that they're playing more like a team that's in the final 6 games of the season rather than at the start of the season, and they need to settle themselves down, and it's causing problems for them, especially last week against Fulham. So there's only 2 teams that are mature enough in this league, and that's just us and City for me.
Yeah, me too. Just a quick one for Thomas. Explain how Villa are high flying. They got stuffed 5-0 at Newcastle. They did, but did you know, in this calendar year of 2023, only Manchester City have picked up more Premier League points than Aston Villa's 49. Again, mad stats there when we actually think about it. When we talk about Unai Emery, Colin, he has an amazing away record. He recorded his 7th away Premier League victory last time that Villa played. And since the Spaniard took charge last November, only Man City with 10 and Arsenal with 9 have earned more wins on their travels. Are Villa just as dangerous away as they are at home, or do you think actually they're probably more potent away?
Yeah, I mean, their away record does speak for itself. I think that really goes back to the kind of improvement that I think Emery has made in his ability since he had left and gone back to Spain and come back. I think he has turned into a really he was always a good manager, but I think he's turned to a really exceptional manager, and I think his communication and his ability to communicate to his teams has gotten so much better. They are dangerous, and they despite their loss at Newcastle, they lose their captain to they know it's a major injury right away. First game of the year, Newcastle come out flying, and they might be more susceptible to how Newcastle really like to play with just big bodies and really kind of bully them around. Yeah, I mean, to underestimate them, I think would be at our own detriment for sure. And if we're not careful, they will put more than one past us within the first half.
Yeah, and whilst Villa are deadly, Neil, Klopp's men have netted 43 Premier League goals since the start of March, and that's more than any other team in the competition. So Liverpool, and we know this, they've always been a team who scores goals. For the decades that we've all supported them, for the many decades that Kevin Neal have supported them, they've always managed to score goals. So how important is that attack going to be, Neil, tomorrow? And 6-0 at Luton aside, is this is this Klopp, his attack, his method to scoring goals, is it one of the best that you've seen?
It is. I think we're almost, if you remember these first full season, it was very much heavy metal football, and it was we're gonna outscore the opposition. I wouldn't say we're quite back to that, but we do look exciting going forward. We do look like we're going to score goals. I think with any game against any opposition, really, it's about us. And we spoke about mistakes. If you look at the goal against Bournemouth, if you look at the goal against Newcastle, they were mistakes. And I think, as I say, it's about us. If we don't make mistakes, we take the game to them with our attacking players, we will score goals, and we're capable of scoring goals in quick succession. You know, we did it last week against Newcastle, and I think during the Bournemouth game, up until we went down to 10 men, I thought we looked like we could score loads of goals because we were flying forward, creating chances. And we as soon as we built up that momentum, we looked really good. So, as I say, every game we play, I think it's about us. If we don't make those mistakes, if we're solid enough, we will score enough goals with our attacking options. You know, we've got 5 fabulous forwards. They can all score. They can all create goals. We've got Ben Doak, you know, chomping at the bit on the sidelines to get minutes under his belt. And I think Klopp made the point in the week, we've now got midfielders that are more capable of scoring goals. So I wouldn't be surprised to see McAllister or Szoboszlai on the score sheet tomorrow. So it's about us. Get things right. Don't make mistakes. The attack will take care of it.
Yeah. And it's so good that we do have that attack because they are so deadly. We are, Tony, going to get on to the predicted 11 very shortly. And I am liking the Kwanzaa shout as well. Round 2, guys. You got your pens and papers ready? Everybody else at home in the comfort, hopefully having a nice drink on this Saturday evening for the Saturday nightclub. Everybody else join in. I just need a number this time. And this is called past 11. Okay. How many games have Liverpool won in their last 11 against Aston Villa? So how many games have Liverpool won in their past 11 meetings against Aston Villa? Just need a number. And you can shout it out as soon as you're ready. Everyone in the chat, feel free. 8. Kev's gone 8. Everyone else in the chat, feel free to put yours down. Jay's gone 7, 8, 9 for Thomas as well in there. Anybody else?
I'm going to go 8 as well.
I think it's 7.
8, 7. Okay.
I remember, so we drew last year, the 1-1, weren't it, with at Anfield. We had the 7-2 game where we lost.
Yeah.
Yep.
The others are wins, I think.
Sorry?
I think the others maybe wins, mightn't they, Neil?
Yeah, so I was going to go 9, but I thought maybe there's one I've forgotten, so I went for 8. But they're the 2 that I can remember that we didn't win.
Well, lads, your ball knowledge is absolutely spot on, but not because you gave the right answers, but because you actually just told me which ones they didn't win, but you went 8 instead of 9. So the correct answer is, in fact, 9. And you were absolutely right. The Reds have won 9 of the last 11 Premier League meetings with Aston Villa. The exceptions being a 7-2 loss at Villa Park in October 2020, and obviously the 1-1 draw at Anfield in May, in which Roberto Firmino, Bobby, scored an 89th minute leveller in his final home outing for the Reds. So well done to everybody who said 9 in there as well. Please do make sure that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I just dropped my water there and I caught it. For anyone else on camera, like Spider-Man. 10 likes away from 50. Please do hit that like button. Very, very well done. No points there, though, because we don't, as Bill Shankly say, first is first, second is nowhere. Let's move on to the predicted 11 then. As we've already said, fellow defender for Virgil van Dijk / Gomez / Matip remains an injury doubt. So Gomez could partner Joel Matip at centre-back. Let's talk defence first. Then if we go and predicted 11, as we all know, there's no point in going through the goalkeeper. Alisson is absolutely nailed on, the best in the world. He showed that last week in what Eddie Howe says was the best save he has ever seen. And you'd probably be quite hard to argue. Kev, give us your back line, your back 4. I'm assuming it's a back 4.
It is. It's the same that played against Newcastle with one change, which would be Gomez instead of Virgil.
Okay, so exactly the same. I thought Gomez played fairly well, actually, when he came on. If I'm honest, I thought that he had a good game. So I think that's a fair shout. Colin?
I think that Kev is correct there. The only wrinkle that I might suggest is that I wonder if Matip will go on that left side with more help from Robertson, and that Gomez might go on the right, and kind of cover that space a little better behind Trent. That's it. Yeah. I don't necessarily know that is, I'm not fully convinced of myself in that, but that's the only wrinkle that I could see to that back line.
Yeah, who plays on that left side? Neil?
I think it'll be those four. I think Gomez will play on the left-hand side, and I think we'll find Watkins playing on Gomez to try and bully him a bit aerially. But I think it'll be those four. I have a theory that Gomez thrives in difficult situations and when he's asked to play a bit more of a leadership role. And I think last week he was put in a difficult situation. He did it. There's been other games, Atalanta away, where he was with Reece Williams, and he was obviously the senior partner, and he played very well that day. So I'm hoping that we're going to see another positive performance from him.
Let's talk Quansah very, very quickly then, because I did bring up Tony's point earlier about him playing. He came on and I thought he played superbly, especially considering the fact we were down to 10 men. Colin, what have you seen of Quansah and what have you liked about him?
I mean, firstly, his physicality and his physicality overall, like his speed, his quickness, his size is clearly and obviously stands out. I think that he is probably, he's so young. I think probably at this point he is better if it were not to be as much possession based. I don't know that he's, picking long passes like Virgil can, or, really breaking too many lines. But I think we might, there's a chance we see him if the game's going well. I think there's a chance we see him in for Matip again, trying to make sure the Matip's minutes, are under check.
Kev, a little bit on Quansah then, because he was definitely thrown into the abyss and an eternal pit of fire, it seemed, when he came on, last week. How impressed were you with not just, his physicality, but also his composure and his decision making too?
Yeah, showed maturity when he came on. Kind of gives you a boldness of that he will be getting a lot of game time in the next couple of weeks, especially especially after the international break. We've got 7 games, of which 5 are in a space of about 11 or 14 days. So he will be used in the Europa game, I would say, and also in the League Cup game against Leicester. I think he'll be given his minutes then. We may see him tomorrow for a couple of minutes for either Matip or for Gomez as well. I think we'll start seeing a bit of, in the first half of the season, we'll start seeing him getting a lot of game time and building up his numbers. And then probably second half of the season, you may see him starting in some of the games, depending on who we're playing. I think he's great. Everything what Colin said, but I've been more. It's his maturity when he comes on the pitch. It's having that know-how of when to play a ball and where to do it as well. So it's great to see that you got a young player, especially at that age, who can come in and can give you ease when he's on the ball, rather than treating like a hot cake as what some do. It bodes well for us for this season, and it kind of means that the 5 of them may be in contention for certain games. But no, I'm totally impressed so far, and there's nothing to make me think otherwise. He's been a great acquisition, and it's great to see a young lad taking his moments as well.
Yeah, for me, last game rather, when he came on, I was impressed just with the way that he was willing to put his body on the line. Now, that might sound, well, of course he is, because he's a professional footballer, right? But let's not forget he's young. And there was a couple of times where he lunged in and he made some fantastic blocks, Neil. And that could have been dangerous. But actually, it looks like he's so controlled on that pitch. He always looks like he has the perception and the detail of where everybody is on that pitch. And that's, for me, You can't teach that. That's a natural ability that you have in your brain that tells you how to play at centre back or central midfield. Like, you can't teach that. He just does seem to have this natural talent, and there must be something in there for him, not to go out on loan, like we've seen the likes of Phillips go out on loan and Tyler Morton to go out on loan, for Klopp to keep him around. And I don't think that's just because we need a centre-back. I personally think we do, Neil. But is that maybe why we didn't go for a centre-back? Do we think that Klopp might actually have quite a lot of faith in Quansah, that he could be the future of that Liverpool back line?
I think it has to be that, because I don't think they would. So they turned down the offer of buying someone. They could have gone out and bought someone. And the day before the transfer window closed, they let Nat Phillips go on loan. So I'm fairly certain that he must fancy Quansah as a player. I've seen him in the under-21s. As you say, he does read the game quite well. He's got a bit of a laid-back style as well. A bit similar to Virgil. But he's very good on the ball as well. And he defended well last week, but he used the ball really well. There was one pass in particular where he carried the ball down the right-hand side and played an incisive pass. It may have been into Mo. So we don't have any right-back cover at the moment. So Joe Gomez is the right-back cover. So we need a fifth-choice centre-back at the moment. And because there was no transfer activity other than Phillips going out on loan, I think he must fancy him as a player. And I think he will play. I think he'll probably play. He'll certainly play Carabao Cup, and I suspect he'll play a bit in Europe as well, if not all the games. Because as I say, Conor Bradley, I think he's out till November, so Gomez is going to have to be the backup for Trent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to and embracing the Europa. Lots of my friends who are, in the Champions League were asking where Liverpool were on the draw when the Champions League draw was out. I was like, well, we're not in the Champions League. I don't get that joke. They were obviously trying to be sarcastic, but I'm personally embracing this Europa League because the finals in Dublin, phenomenal city, and I'm really looking forward to getting the ferry with Kev. We're already on it, aren't we, Kev? Gonna have a disco on there. And also, it's the one that Klopp's not won. It's the one that Salah's not won. It's the one that Robbo, Virgil, Trent, they've not won it to complete the set. And I'm 100% embracing it, not just because it's the last one really to win, but also we are going to see Quansah, we're going to see Doak, we're going to see all of these amazing players actually, and these youngsters be able to experience that first team football, and something that the Champions League can't necessarily allow you to do. And let's embrace it, guys, because next year and the next 5 years we'll be in the Champions League anyway. So let's win the Europa, let's dominate that.
I think being in the Champions League year in, year out, as much as we need to be in there, it does add a certain amount of workload onto the players, because you're not going to make 6, 7, 8 changes, which you probably will do in the Europa. You might even make more changes than that in Europa. So I think from our squad's fitness perspective, we'll benefit from it, because we'll probably see the likes of Doak playing. We'll see the likes of Harvey Elliott coming in, Gomez, Matip, Tsimikas, all of those players who don't play regular football, we will trust to start in those Europa games, and it will give the more senior players a chance to rest. So I actually, as much as I want to be in the Champions League, I don't think it's a bad thing for the fitness of the squad overall, but also the development of those younger players as well.
And it's the confidence of players as well. We'll talk about Nunez in a moment, but players need minutes, and this is a prime opportunity for the fringe / squad players to really make an impact. Let's talk about midfield.
Sorry, I just want to make one point. The best example of that competition benefiting a player is Harry Kane. So Harry Kane was not in the Premier League team at Tottenham. And one year, I was going back several years now, he was playing Europa, and he scored so many goals in the Europa that he actually couldn't be ignored, and he forced his way into the first team. And the rest is history. So
Tim Sherwood's team, wasn't he?
I think it was, yeah. And he wasn't picking. I think Soldado was playing instead of him. So the evidence is there that you can get real breakout players from giving them that experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody who, you guys and everybody else who's listening as well, Liverpool have got a wealth of amazing talent in their academy and youth ranks. We've only mentioned Doak and Quanta, but there's so many more. So yeah, it'll be an exciting time to see them. Let's talk about midfield then, Kev. Who is, let's say they play three, who's your midfield three?
The same as last week. It'll be Endo, Szoboszlai and McAllister for me.
Yeah, perfect. Colin?
Yeah, I don't think they'll start Jones so soon after an injury, even though he's back. He might catch some minutes at the end. I would have a hard time believing it's not going to be those three. Again, if anything, maybe Gakpo slides in for one of the two, just to give them a rest, a rest from starting. But I don't probably foresee that at all.
Neil, Endo's had, as we mentioned earlier, a bit of a baptism of fire going into that sixth role. He's looked okay, I think. I personally feel a little bit for him. Everyone was waiting for a Caicedo or a Lavia, and Endo comes in at 30 years old. He did look okay, and he's only going to get better. Let's face it. Is there any room for what I think? A Harvey Elliott who played very well when he did come on against Newcastle, or is it going to be that same three for you?
I think it will be the same three. As you say, Endo's come in a really difficult situation. I think he looks really good on the ball. I think he uses the ball really well. And positionally, you could see that he had that defensive awareness around him last week. If I'm to be critical, it's over his mobility and maybe his physicality as well. A couple of times he got turned. Just make a foul, just bring the player down so that to stop a counter. So I think he will go with those three. I'm 80% certain it will be those three, because I think he'll want that out and out defensive midfield player in there. There's 20% that says maybe he'll spring a surprise, and your options really are Elliott, who did play well when he came on, Curtis Jones or Stefan Bajcetic, because he's been back in training for the best part of 2 weeks now. So yeah, 80% I think, but 20% it wouldn't surprise me if there was a change in there. And Colin made a good point, because Gakpo might not be in the front three.
Yep.
And I think Klopp really likes Gakpo. So maybe he'll try and accommodate him in midfield. I wouldn't, but maybe he will.
Yeah, and rightly so. Bajcetic, by the way, I believe, and I haven't written this down, but I believe he actually scored against Aston Villa last time out as well.
Villa Park.
His first goal, yeah, at Villa Park. So, yeah, shout for him. I'd love to see him return as well. Let's talk about the front line then, because we have alluded to Gakpo and Nunez, and for me, there's not a world that you cannot start Darwin Nunez in. But since the start of last season, Nunez averages more shots, which is 4.6, and shots on target, which is 2 per 90 minutes than any other Premier League player with a minimum of 500 minutes played. Kev, when we're talking about Darwin Nunez, we all know that there's a player in there. And I think that's sometimes where frustration comes in. I've loved him since day one because he's a menace. I've loved him since the headbutt. I've loved him since he scored in the Community Shield and everyone shouted Nunez. I've loved him from day one. I can understand why people get frustrated. Surely he starts tomorrow. Surely.
He does for me. I like his chaoticness. I think it needed it last week. And it proved at that time that was the perfect substitution at that time. The problem we've had with Nunez, with a lot of people, is that we thought he was going to come in like Diaz and hit the ground running straight away. Not many of our players have, and it's took him a bit of time. I think it's taken us time to adapt to us and us to adapt to him. And I still think we are trying to adapt to him in certain ways. I think it was nice to see him on the right hand side. It flowed a little bit better with him on the right than what it does necessarily on the left. So for me, if he does start, there would be a part of me that would play him on the right hand side at some point. I think he's established himself now in the team. His goals last week, I'll be honest, you know, I was wax lyrical when he scored against us when he was playing for Benfica, but those goals he took last week were phenomenal. And to take those chances away as well as what he did, you know, that's play. You know, there's no confidence. He's not lacking confidence. Let us put it that way. And to be a winner, he needs to start next week. Tomorrow he has to start for me. So my front three tomorrow, because I want Gakpo in there, would be Nunez, Gakpo, and Salah, which is a bit controversial. But you know, I would be tending to try and move either Salah to the middle and playing Nunez on the right hand side. And the reason why I've put Gakpo instead of Diaz, I think Gakpo offers you a little bit more than what Diaz does, and it's just, I just feel as though we would lose. I think there'll be more frustration if we don't start Gakpo. I think he's a quality player, and I think, you know, I don't want him seeing him going into the midfield. I'd rather see him up front where he should be. So that'll be my three for tomorrow up front.
Yeah, and Gakpo's had a bit of a raw deal, if I'm completely honest. He's been asked to play out of position. We know he can play anywhere across the front three, but as an 8 is a completely different position altogether. I just cannot. Nunez is a confidence player, and his second season at Benfica was absolutely phenomenal because he was given the chance of being the leading man. That's what he needs. He needs someone to tell him that you are good enough to start for Liverpool Football Club. And he'll do exactly what he did. Those 2 goals that he scored last week against Newcastle were absolutely top draw. If you actually have a look at the camera angle behind the goalkeeper, there's not too many areas where he could have put it beyond Pope, and he did it twice. It almost looks like the same goal coming in from the right across the goalkeeper. That's such a hard finish for anyone who's played football before. It's such a hard finish because you have to not skew it wide of the post. You have to not hit it down the goalkeeper's throat. And there's a tiny little margin of in between the goalkeeper and the post when you're hitting it across the keeper. And he did it twice, and it looked like he didn't even think about it. So for me, again, he has to start. Colin, Mo Salah has been in the news quite a lot, and we will get to the window, I promise. And I promise all of these questions that are coming into the chat, I have started them. We will get onto them. Salah has scored or assisted in each of his last 9 Premier League appearances, 4 goals and 7 assists in total. But the Egyptian has saved his best form for Anfield. He's recorded a goal involvement in 10 consecutive home Premier League outings. The last players to enjoy such a run was Arsenal great Thierry Henry, who scored or assisted in 17 straight between November 2002 and October 2003. How crucial is Mo Salah? We've had the week from hell, well, the day apparently from hell. In terms of Salah, I'm sure that there's weeks yet to come since you know the Saudi market doesn't shut for another 2 weeks. How important is Salah, and how important is he to not just this Liverpool team, but also the community and the spirit and everything that Liverpool Football Club is right now?
Yeah, he's irreplaceable. There's not an amount of money that can buy you another one of him. And it's just because there is not someone else who is like him at all. In any regard, in terms of like work ethic, in terms of his like lack of injury record over the course of 5 years, outside of the Sergio Ramos shoulder tackle. I mean, yeah, you can name any amount of money, and that's great. You know, we can talk all day about how much they are willing to pay, but it's like, who are you going to find that could be someone who can do all of those things, whose work ethic is like that, who's able to, you know, truly like lead by example? And by all accounts, he's not someone that is, he's not the captain of the team. But his tone in his work sets it, I think, for, so many others. Obviously he's undroppable. He'll be in. I think Diaz will get the start on the left. I thought he was probably our best player the first 25 minutes, and harsh to have to yank him after the red. I think he'll go, and then I think it's you mentioned it. Nunez is such a confidence, and I think probably a fairly like emotional person, an emotional player, very like runs hot and runs cold. And after the display that he's had, you can't drop him. I would be worried what that might do to his attitude, maybe his mental health going forward. And whereas if you drop Gakpo, I think seems like a more cool customer. I think he might understand that a little more. And he has had a raw deal to start the season as well. But I think he might respond better to being dropped than Nunez would if we don't start him tomorrow.
And I think that's really important. Gakpo has featured in every single game so far as in he started. And I know that's not his ideal position playing in midfield, bless him, but he's still done well. However, I just think you play the players in form, although Gareth Southgate doesn't think so. You play the players in form, and Nunez is in form, and he's red hot right now, and he would have been buzzing all this week. Now, for me, if you drop Nunez, all of that momentum, it just deflates the kid. For me, it's a no-brainer, and I pray the first name that I see on that team sheet is Nunez 9, because that's what needs to happen. Neil, let's talk about the left-hand side then. If we go in with Salah on the right, obviously, Diaz has looked phenomenal this season, and he has actually since he came in. He runs non-stop for about 60, 70 minutes, and then seems to get taken off, which for me, absolutely fine. He gives 100% for 70 minutes. Is it tough on him? Because I thought, again, last week, why on earth is Klopp taking off Diaz? I thought that was an appalling decision, but actually it was the right decision. So what the hell do we know? Do you think it would be harsh for Diaz to be dropped for Gakpo? We've seen Gakpo on the left for Holland and PSV before. Or actually, do you think Gakpo deserves a start where he should be in that front line as opposed to midfield?
I think it's been hard for Gakpo in the first three games, because I think he was asked to play out of position in the first two, and then again we were reduced to 10 men. Cody Gakpo's a fantastic player. I consider him more for the central role at the moment, and I think the fact that we've now got a DM in Endo might play into Nunez's hands a little bit, that Klopp will be a bit more happy with someone that might not be as good on the defensive side of his game in Nunez, because he's made it clear, Klopp, that Nunez isn't as strong defensively as the other forward. So that might play into his hands again. So the left-hand side, I think Diaz was very good first two games. I thought he looked lively last week, and it was harsh to bring him off. I wouldn't leave him out for Gakpo. I think Gakpo is level-headed enough to know that he's going to get plenty of game time. The one person that hasn't been mentioned is Diogo Jota. He divides opinion. A lot of people think that he's a sub. I thought he was excellent, and it's been underplayed because Nunez, came on, scored two really good goals. Harvey Elliott did well when he came on. Jota was actually excellent when he came on, and his substitution was one of the things that helped change that game. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not Gakpo. Sorry, if it's not Diaz and it's not Gakpo, I wouldn't be surprised to see him start Jota on the left.
He loves Jota, doesn't he? Because of the press as well. He leads that press so well, and he does really like Jota, and rightly so, because he's an absolute killer in the box too. He's a finisher through and through.
But that last 20 minutes, we actually looked so slick in attack, with Salah dropping a little bit deeper to allow Nunez that space on the right channel, and Jota was part of that, coming in from the left hand side.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go with those three. It's harsh on Diaz. My only criticism of him, and it's not solely down to him, is he doesn't have the same rapport with Andy Robertson that Sadio Mane did. And I think that's something that those two can work on to build a better partnership that's a bit more fluid. So yeah, I'm going to go for the three that finished the game: Salah, Nunez, and Jota. Harsh on Gakpo, harsh on Diaz. But it's a lovely situation to be in.
It is, and listen, these five know what they're fighting for. If they drop off, including Salah now, because we saw him get hooked off for Ben Doak. All of these players, if they're not good enough in that game, they will get taken off. Right, are you ready for round three? Everybody else in the chat, there's 131 of you in the chat. Thank you so much for joining the Saturday Night Club, the match preview show. let's go to round 3. And this one is called How Well Do You Know the Villains? Now, everyone in the chat, please do not give Kev, Colin, and Neil any help at all, because I'm sure you would absolutely love to show your answers. You're going to have a question each. I've picked a question each, all about Aston Villa. Okay? You get 5 points for every question that you get right. If you don't get the question right, it passes on to the person next. So we'll start with Kev, then Colin, then Neil. Okay. So Kev, you get it wrong, goes to Colin. Colin, you get it wrong, goes to Neil. Neil, you get yours wrong, it goes to Kev. So you've all got a chance. Okay. So we're going to start with Kev first. Everyone in the chat, please do not say anything at all, because I don't want you to help them. Which Villa player, Kev, can become the first player to score in each of Villa's opening 3 away matches in a top flight season since David Platt in 1990?
I'll go with Watkins. I may be wrong.
Colin, it goes to you.
Yep.
Would it be Louise?
Neil, it goes to you.
Moussa Diaby.
It is Moussa Diaby.
Oh, look at the beef.
Moussa Diaby can indeed become the first player to score in each of Villa's opening 3 away matches of a top flight season since David Platt did do the honours. Okay, so well done. Vase of Flowers, absolutely fantastic. Well done to you. I'm just going to bring it up there. And Ali Nous as well done. Right, 5 points to Neil. Colin, only Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane have scored more top flight goals against Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool than which Aston Villa player?
That has to be Watkins.
That is Ollie Watkins, yeah. Total of 5. Only Vardy and Kane, though, have scored more top flight goals against Liverpool, which for me, Watkins on 5, that's not bad going, is it, really, considering?
He's a killer against us.
Yeah, he is. Neil, then, talking about Ollie Watkins, how many goals has Watkins scored in his last 10 league appearances?
I'm going to go for not that many. I'm going to say 1.
He's got it. He's 1. He smashed it. Well done, Neil.
I don't think he scored. I know he didn't score against us in the last game at Anfield. And I know that he hasn't been scoring in the league because he's not been getting many FPL points. So I didn't think it would be many.
Yeah, he was an FPL nailed on for me, and I swapped him the last day, like literally on deadline day. He's only actually scored 1, which is absolutely phenomenal. Only 1 in his last 10, which for a penalty taker, he's not that great on pens actually as well. I think he's only scored 5 in his last 10. Is not great. So Neil picks up another 5.
Yeah, let's not talk him down too much.
I know, yeah. Jesus.
No, I'm hoping that he's listening. I've heard that Ollie Watkins is listening tonight, so we're just trying to defeat his confidence and
You're
just
a good player,
bring him
Ollie.
down a little bit.
Very good player.
Unai Emery's men have responded superbly since their 5-1 defeat to Newcastle on the opening weekend, beating Everton. Not really that hard, is it? 4-0 before winning 3-1 at Burnley last Sunday. They're the first top-flight side to lose their opening game by 4 or more goals before winning their next 2 since Queen's Park Rangers in 1986-87 season. So there is a lot on the line for Unai Emery indeed. Right, speaking about FPL then, what I like to do, massive FPL fan, as I know all of us are, which FPL pick, I know that the deadline has gone, so we can do this in retrospect and hindsight. Kev, who would have been your FPL, or who is your FPL pick against Aston Villa for Liverpool this week?
It would be Salah. I think you mentioned it before about his record of continuously scoring or assisting. He would be my pick in this game. If not him, it's hard not to think that Nunes wouldn't do.
Well, you can't say if not. You've got to pick one. You can't.
Well, I would have said Salah. It would have been Salah for me.
Yeah, absolutely fine. No. There are 120 of you now in the chat. Please do make sure that you give a like and a subscribe and get involved as well. We are going to come to the extra time portion very, very soon. So any questions that you do have for the lads or for myself, do put into the chat. And I promise you we are starring them and we will get round to them. Neil, FPL pick. So Kev's gone Salah. You can say the same or you could go different.
So last week you asked, looking forward to the Villa game, who I would pick, and I said Virgil van Dijk. So that didn't go very well. So,
well done, Neil.
So I put Darwin Nunes in my team, and I will stick with him.
Oh, so you're definitely praying his first name on the team sheet, a bit like me. Colin?
I'm going with Diaz. I believe in him. I think he's been great so far. I actually do have Trent on my FPL team, and he's been, terrible.
Not good.
You're not the only one, Colin. You're not the only one on that.
Absolutely struggling with him. So yeah, Diaz.
Yeah.
Szoboszlai is the other one that comes.
Oi. No, it's my go. You can't chuck stuff in.
When's
It's my go. And I was going to say Szoboszlai. Thank you very much. Dom Szoboszlai's looked absolutely phenomenal, hasn't he? And like we said last week, actually, I thought in pre-season it was a little bit slow. But he's absolutely picked up the pace. He looks phenomenal in the Premier League. So I think it's about time Szoboszlai hits an absolute thunderbolt and picks up a good few points from a midfield goal. Let's do a very quick transfer roundup then, because we are LFC transfer room and we do love transfers because it does seem to be what keeps everything going and what people are interested in. David Shakespeare must have put this in about 10 times tonight, and I did reply saying that we will get to it. I did, and I promise you, as an English teacher, Dave, I will always get to your questions, okay? Purely for your last name. Richie, Kev, Neil, Colin, can you all answer this, please? What do you think of all our signings? And do you think we can win the league? Let's not go all of our signings, but Kev, let's do an out of 10, okay? What's an out of 10 window for you? And does that allow us to win the league? And I will ask, again, the same question to all three of you.
It's a 7 for me. I think what was lacking was a defensive midfielder, someone in defense for me. I think you look at the midfield that we've got and what we've replaced. We've replaced numbers with players that can actually play and play at least 90% of the time. You've got versatility in that team, which I think benefits us overall, and we've seen that already with McAllister playing 6, and how we easily, as a temporary measure, I'd love to see him a bit further up the pitch and playing as an 8, but he's quality at the minute playing the 6 if needed to. I like the energy. I like the offensiveness. I think going forward, we have got probably the most attacking, most energized quality going forward. It's just the back 5 for me it's slightly worrying for me. Do we have enough to win the league? I think we'll go close. I think we've already seen with Newcastle, and they haven't even started the Champions League yet, and are going the way I said they would do, which is that they'll start falling down the table. I think Arsenal are struggling at the minute. For me, I think there's only, as I said before, there's only 2 teams that can go 18, 19 games unbeaten, and I can't see any other team getting close to us. I think if we keep our players well, we buy well in January, and then we'll see where we are then. But at the minute, I'd say it's also Man City at the minute.
Okay, Jay agrees with you. He's got a 7. Colin?
8 overall. I think Kev's right. But the defender is like the real missing. If I was taking points off, if I was grading a paper, I'd take a point off for not getting a defender, and I'd take a point off for. It sounds so harsh. I'd take a point off for the Endo signing. And it's not because I don't like him. It's not because I don't think he can be really, can really like contribute, and especially over the course of the time that he's here. But when we had signed Fabinho, that was like, we were getting one of the best 2 or 3 defensive midfielders in the world, and he's not the top 2 or 3 defensive midfielders in the world. So that's harsh on him. But if you would have offered me these four, and I said this in the chat, if you would have offered me these four at the beginning of the window, absolutely yes. I would have taken it without a second guess. The frustration, I think, for all of us really came into the timing of it, how it played out in terms of the process of it rather than the end result of who we got.
Yeah. And Ian agrees with you and says Gravenberch made it an 8. Neil?
I'm going to be a bit more harsh. I'm going to say 6. I think we probably eased out a lot of the players that we wanted to ease out. Mixed views as to whether Fabinho should have gone, but I think the offer that we got for him was generous. So it kind of made sense to get that. I think I have no problem with any of the 4 players that we've brought in. I think they've come in with a different purpose. And 2 might be regular starters and 2 might not be. 3 might be regular starters. So I don't have any issue from that perspective. I think there's 2 issues that I've got or 3 issues. One, it's not over yet. We've got to wait, I think, till the 7th of September before we know. Although the FIFA website seems to indicate that window's open till the 20th, so it's a right mess. So that's one issue I have. The second issue I have is I didn't like the way that the Casado and Lavia transfers played out in public. It's not Liverpool to do it in that way. And we didn't really gain anything out of that. I was convinced when it was dragging on 2-3 days that we would come away with something from that. And instead we walked away with our tail between our legs a little bit. And third, I think we've left ourselves short in certain areas. I think defensive midfield, I would like to have seen a real destroyer there. And at least one defender, you could argue 2 would have been useful. But if we're going to use Konsa, then maybe someone then that can just cover on the right-hand side if Konsa's going to primarily take the left. So yeah, 6 out of 10. There were some really good things, but there were some really bad things, and I didn't like the way it all played out in public either.
Yeah, absolutely. Base Flowers went to bed last night. So did I, around about 9, because we weren't signing anything. It actually felt bad for Gravenberch with all the Salah talk. He seemed to have got swept under the rug and a little bit forgotten about. But I think we can still do the business with a lot of luck when it comes to injuries, especially to that back line as well. Another question then. If Saudi offered 200 million for Salah, whenever this window closes, because I thought it was the 7th and then I thought it was the 20th and now people are saying the 7th again, who knows? I think they make their own rules. Would you take it? Let's go to Neil. We'll go the opposite way around first. A simple yes or no. 200 million for Salah right now.
No. No.
Okay. Colin?
The timing of it is what would make me say no, not the price.
Okay. Kev?
Nope.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's a full sweep because I also, for 200 million, would say no. I think that would write the season off. He is, for me, irreplaceable, and it would completely derail the season. And we may as well just say goodbye to every single competition, perhaps as good as Nunez or Doak is. I do think that it's just not worth it. And I'm sure the Saudis will come back next year anyway. Right, really quick go before we close here. And do please, everybody, make sure that you give us, before you go, a like and subscribe. There's been well over 100 people in here for well on an hour. So thank you so much for spending your precious Saturday night with us. Score predictions then for tomorrow. Kev, what are you going with?
I'm going for a narrow win, whether that's 1-0 or 2-1.
Okay, Colin.
3-1. 3-1 us.
Neil.
You know what makes?
Sorry, I'm going to go for an unexpected clean sheet, and I think we're going to win 3-0.
What's your prediction, Rich?
I'm going to go 4-2.
Wow.
Yeah,
All the goals.
4-2. I think Watkins and Diaby Diaby does get that record that David Platt had. And I will also go Nunez to bag a couple. Salah gets on the mark, and I think Diaz gets one too. Maybe even as a Szoboszlai chips in somewhere. Listen, whatever happens, it's a clean sweep. It's a Liverpool win, right? So, there's always that.
Queen sweep, and I think everybody took the over. So I might go bet that. Over in goals.
That means it's definitely coming under.
Yeah, it's going to be 1-0.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us in the chat. You guys are phenomenal. You do keep the channel going, so thank you so much. Massive thank you to Kev, Colin, and Neil as well for joining me and listening to all of the stats and playing my little games as well. I do try to keep myself amused, but thank you so much. We are all here, obviously, for the Reds, and until next week, we all wish you the very, very best. Take care. Up the Reds. As always, take care.